Okay, in this video I'm going to review the additional activities from class 8. Okay, so the first thing I want to review is the ability to add additional methods in your repositories. And so if I look at the repositories, I'm going to open up the Camper MVC with JPA and validation. Right, so if I open up that project, let's see what the Camper repository has initially. All right, so I'll go into my source. My repositories are in this Spring Data JPA package. All right, so let's look at the Camper repository. See, basically this is what a repository class looks like if you have no additional methods implemented. All right, but say whenever I'm running my project, all right, I'll let this run. Okay, so I'll let this run. And what say, whenever you get a list of campers, if I just okay, so in my camper controller, if I want to get my list of campers, so I'll come down here to my camper list. And what I do is I go, well, here I'm using the camper DAO. So if I want to use my repository to do this, I can just use the repository which has been injected into this class up here at the top. All right, so see what I did? I injected this camper repository in via the constructor. All right, so now that I have that camper repository with Spring Data JPA set up, I can use it. And I can use the boilerplate methods from it. This will give me back all the campers. Data JPA. Right, the only thing I have to do is cast that. Right, it's an iterable, so I'll cast it to an array list. Okay, so what I did there, I replaced the call from the DAO method with the camper repository Spring Data JPA method, which gives me back all the campers. All right, so what I'm looking at is the methods that are available to me by default from the camper repository. And these come from the CRUD repository class. Right? So over here, so it extends CRUD repository. Right? And this is what's available to me. Okay, so I've got my find all. All right, but you notice you might want to have times where you want to do more things than just that. And what you can add is something like this. So this here version is the one, is the Camper MVC with JPA and Spring Validation, and the extras on from class 8. So if I look at the Camper repository in here, you see I've added this method. All right, and that's all I have to do. By adding this method as declaration, this sort of the signature of a method in my camper repository class, Spring Data JPA will build the implementation of this method for me. All right, but it has to be specifically done exactly like this. So I want to return a list of campers. I need to use the find by, but what I can do is add one of the fields from the camper class that are tied to the database. Right, so in this case, I'm adding last name. All right, so there's my last name attribute. All right, so it has to be spelled exactly like this. Of course, this is lower camel cased, and this one is, it's part of the method name, so it's swapped to upper camel case because it's part of the method name. All right, so find by last name, right, and I define it to accept a string of the last name, and that's how I can go about doing it. Now I have the ability to use that method once it's added to the repository. All right, what I can do is go look at it here. All right, this is how it's implemented. Before, in my lists, right, if I just wanted to find, this doesn't make much sense in the list window. I don't want to see just the ones with a specific last name. But what I can do is, I can do find by last name and say I want all the people whose last name ends with Smith. I pass Smith to that method, and that's it. Spring Data JPA takes care of all the details of implementing that method. That's about it. Whenever I run this program now with those two changes, and I log into it, if I went to my list screen, my camper list, it would go and filter out all the rows and just give me the ones that match the last name Smith. Okay, so a quick recap on what changes were needed. All right, I need to use the method. All right, if I want to filter out by last name, and I have to add this declaration in my camper repository. All right, so that's all there is to that. That's part one.